Welcome to the Media Box, where I'm joined by Belarusian opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. Thank you very much for talking to us. Earlier you addressed the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. You said that what's happening in Belarus is the new tragedy of Europe, all of Europe. Tell us why that was central to your message.
Because just in the middle of Europe, in the 21st century, people are experiencing brutal terror and tyranny, and this tyranny is left without any consequences. Hundreds of thousands of people had to flee the country. 50,000 people have been detained. About 5,000 criminal cases are opened and 1,000 of political prisoners in Belarus, but no actual tools for fighting with the regimes. It's high time to think about mechanisms or tools that can fight with the regimes, with the dictatorship in Europe.
You also talked about the promise of Europe. Is Europe living up to its promise?
Europe promised to be with the countries that are fighting for the same values that are based of democracy. And so as Belarus and Ukraine are fighting now for these values differently, but still it's very important that Europe is dedicated to the values. And yes, Europe is fulfilling the promises, but maybe too slow sometimes.
You also said that you feel that your supporters in Belarus and the Ukrainians are fighting a similar fight.
We are fighting for independence. We are fighting for the opportunity for people to decide their future by themselves, not by the third country. So our fight is similar. Yes, we different means. You know, our revolution is peaceful, and huge terror in our country. In Ukraine, they have to fight with the hundreds of thousands of killed and people and injured people. But still, the values our fight is based on are the similar.
You said you wanted to see more of the Council of Europe in the lives of Belarusians, more of Belarus in the Council of Europe. What do you mean by that, and how can it practically be achieved?
People of Belarus understand the necessity, importance of being the part of Council of Europe, and that's why we now have to bring principles and values of Council of Europe for Belarusians, because dictatorships are not endless, and sooner or later the changes will come to our country, and we will need reforms, very fast reforms. And it's very important to start working now on reforms, on the strengthening of civil society, on different initiatives to be prepared for changes. We need each other, and we have to, as I proposed during my speech, that we have to install new mechanism or working group, or just we can call it whatever we want, just to collaborate already now, to start dialogue, to start to initiate different like events, side events, you know, where Belarusians can collaborate with members of Council of Europe.
We all know about the story of what happened a couple of years ago with the elections in the country. Your story, the protest, the crackdown from the Lukashenko government. Tell us a little bit more about what the situation is like on the ground, what it's been like over these last 2 years since then.
Tyranny, violence, tortures. People can be kidnapped at the apartment, at the work, at any time, just for comment, for wrong color of the socks, for being, for saying to actively position about the regime in our country, being vocal about the war. These are the reasons to sentence people to years in jail. But despite of this terror, people are not giving up. People continue to fight. Yes, you will not see beautiful rallies on the streets because they are extremely dangerous, and we don't want to lose the most active people in our country. So our movement now is mostly underground, but still it's very important to stay in coordination with people who are on the ground and people who are in exile, because we have one goal. We are working together on this goal. We are not competing at the moment. So that's why Lukashenko, he tried a lot to split like opposition or democratic forces, but he failed.
Are you convinced that your cause will succeed?
So I believe that we will not give up, that we have a lot of democratic allies that will help us to continue this fight, and sooner or later, of course better sooner, to get rid of the regime, and we'll start to build a democratic country. Though I understand, we explain this to Belarus all the time, that don't think that after a regime collapses, everything will be fine. Democracy is a difficult job, and we will have to study to live in democracy. And for people who have been living for 27 years under dictatorship, it will be rather difficult, to understand that you are responsible for your future, responsible for decisions that government is making. But I think that we will study to do this rather fast, because we know what we are going through to gain these democratic changes.
Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.